like when they would write your material for you, right? Would you have like one guy that was kind of like that you had become comfortable with that would write your stuff, or was it like a different person? And like, would you like if a guy was writing you bad material, would you go to Vince and say, "Hey, I don't think this guy knows my character," stuff like? Well, did you have any type of freedom like that, like picking the people that you work to write your stuff, or was it still very constricted, like how like when they give you material?
So I mean, obviously, I was there almost 20 years, so
Right.
I had a lot of freedom to say I don't like this, and also had a lot of input to, all the Shawn Michaels stuff was my stuff with Shawn, and same with Ray and Kevin Owens and all that stuff. I had a lot of say in it, but when you're talking about having to write a promo together, I mean, all the promos I've done in AEW have been off the cuff, all off the top of my head, everything. Even last week with Scorpio when he was talking about Melanie Parsons. I said, well, Melanie Parsons has gained a lot of weight since high school. That was improv. And then he came back with, I like big butts and I cannot lie. It's like, that was a great moment. That was just, we came up with it on the fly because that's what you do. So, but in WWE, you have to write the promos and construct them, and then you have to get Vince to approve it. And then Vince will change whatever he doesn't like, which he'll change something because that's just what he does. So, prior to kind of in the first era of Jericho, Brian Gewirtz, who now is one of the higher ups for The Rock, because The Rock loved working with him too, and made him one of his right hand men in his production company. He was great, so I would work with Brian Gewirtz pretty much all the time. He was my guy. Right. Then when they came back, it was Jimmy Jacobs. He was amazing. He came up with the list and all that stuff in 2016, 17, and 15. So those are the two best guys that I work with that really knew who I was as a character. And we would collaborate, like writing a song, sit down. What do you got? Here's what I got. Here's what Vince wants. Here, what do you got? I got this. Put it together, construct it, kind of, BS back and forth. If you were working with someone that you enjoyed working with, like Kevin, and he would put in his 2 cents as well. Then you take it to Vince, and then you get either approved or disapproved. Sometimes the writer would come back and say, "This Vince hates all of this. He wants it all changed." So eventually, I would go in there and just read the promos in my voice and listen to what Vince had to say. But a lot of times you would spend hours on working on this great piece of work, and then Vince would hate everything, or he'd want to change the most important parts. But once again, that's Vince's world. It's what he wants, and you have to follow it.
That's what I find fascinating about this, is that like you're doing it the way we used to do it back in 96, 97, where you just had the freedom to do your stuff, and you guys went through this whole system of scripted promos, this whole era of 20 years, and now you're back at square one where you were 96 and 97, where you just had freedom to do your promo. And that's the thing with me, is like I missed that whole middle part that you had to go through, and I can't even comprehend it. Because all I can think about, I saw your bro, go back and watch it. Do you ever watch some of your old 96, 97 promos? The ones you do in ring just before your match and stuff?
It's once in a while I'll watch it. You know what I mean? Especially now. That's why I love Twitter, because they'll put up 30-second clips of cool stuff. So I've seen a lot of it, and you forget a lot of it. But it's actually pretty good for a guy at that stage of the game. A lot of it I would do differently now, but for a 26, 27-year-old kid who's just getting mic time for the first time, I thought a lot of it actually worked.
Right, and they were giving you a lot of liberty. Right, they were giving you a lot of liberty, and you were making it work. Whether it was the shit with the White House when you went over there, remember that? Yeah. And that shit when you brought Ralphus out before he became too big of a star. That's great.
The best part of the White House thing was I was told when I was doing the conspiracy thing, and I was told, okay, meet up at 10 a.m. at the Capitol Center in Washington. And you meet the camera crew, and then you guys would go film some stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool. Didn't really know what they wanted, but I figured the camera crew would know. So we get there, and the camera crew is like, okay, cool, we're ready to go. I'm like, we're ready to go. Like, what do you want to do? And what are we doing? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I thought you knew what you were doing. I'm like, well, no one told you. No one told you. No. Now we have to actually try and find something to do, because I guess it got lost in translation of Jericho's just going to go do something in Washington. What? Right. I don't know. So that's where we came up with the whole thing of the White House and everything, and then standing in the middle of the street with a conspiracy sign. But once again, let the pros be pros, and I appreciated that in the long run. It's like,
but you were also, but the great thing, Jericho, is you were producing, and they wouldn't have given you that much liberty. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's my point, was it's Jericho. He knows what his character is. He knows what he wants to do. He'll make it good. And that's kind of what we're doing here in AEW. I mean, every single. I mean, last week was the thing with Scorpio. Once again, I talked about it because it's fresh in my mind. Was the people are saying duck season, rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, where Daffy Duck cons Bugs Bunny into thinking it's rabbit season or whatever. That's what we kind of did with Scorpio Sky to get the title match. But I didn't even think of that till afterwards. And Tony got the idea from a Jerry Lawler, Ric Flair thing from like 1982, where Flair came to Memphis for the first time as the world champ.
That's a great angle. Have you seen that, by the way? That angle? It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I watched it to kind of to brush up for this. And it's great. I mean, Lawler's awesome in it. Flair, pompous, arrogant heel. Like, what do you mean? You want a match against me? Like, come on. You can't win. Well, I know I can't win. Maybe it's for the title. Oh, come on. The title doesn't never get defended on TV. What are you going to do if you won the title? Oh, I don't know. I'm not worthy. But that's how they do it. So, once again, Tony just had this basic idea, combine it with my basic idea, and let's just put it together. Sit down with Scorpio. What do you got? We banter about a few ideas here and there, and suddenly we got a great piece of TV. Same thing the week before with Jericho and MJF. There was no rehearsal for that. There's no script. I mean, it's just me and him sitting in the dressing room kind of throwing ideas back and forth, and let's see what happens. Let's do it. There's a lot of improv in that segment as well. So it's just really cool to have that freedom and also have the confidence from the powers that be to know it's going to be good because of the people that are involved. I think deep down inside, Vince knows it too, but it's been such a long time since there's been guys who can actually go out and just do it that he forgets that there is some guys that can do it. So that's why he had, Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Chris Jericho, going off of scripts, and Roddy Piper. They would give Roddy Piper a script, and it's like, you can't memorize a script. He's Roddy Piper. He just does it. So it kind of lost a little bit of the core of what wrestling is, which is just reacting to the crowds and knowing 100% who and what your character is. That's something that we do in AEW. If you don't know who your character is, you better find it quick. If not, you're not going to get over. And that's also something that used to happen even in WCW. You better find a character that works, or you're not going to get over, and you're not going to get TV time. No one's going to do it for you.
Bro, what's the hardest? Wait 1 second. You know what's the hardest part for me, and how much this resonates with you, Chris? Because WWE obviously was the king in Canada, right?
Yes, sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
So here we grew up watching this company that had such great promo man, who was the gold standard of how you do character development and storylines, and was so great at everything. It's so sad to look at them, and it's like they've lost their way. You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting to me because I agree. And even when I watched Survivor Series last night, I thought it was really good. But they have this promo with like Daniel Bryan and Miz, and it's like, for the sake of our children and our families, you have to stop the Fiend, the nightmare of the Fiend. Like, nobody talks like that. You know what I mean? Like, you can still put the guy over big time, but not worry about, like, what's he going to come to your house and break in your house and steal your kids? It's just not believable.
It's cartoonish.
And it's one of those things. It's cartoonish in a bad way.
Right.
Like what we did last week with Scorpio was cartoonish too. Like, as if the guy would allow himself to be talked into a championship match. But it worked because it was fun and you had the right characters to do it. And it's like, if you had a guy like Roman Reigns in AEW, he'd be so over because Roman is legit a real cool dude, man. He's a great guy, he's super cool. He's a guy you want to hang out with, And they never portray him like that on the show. They always give him these promos to read, and the real Roman Reigns never really shines through. And it's the same. Like, the real Seth Rollins never really shines through. These are guys that they have their own unique personalities. So don't try and write stuff for them. Just have them go out there and say, "Here, listen, you have a title match. We want you guys to talk about the match. I want you to talk about how much it means to you, or whatever. And just go out there and do it. You got 4 minutes. Let's see what you got."
Let me ask:
what do you think would come
over as a result?
What do you think would come first? Vince retiring or Vince changing his mind on how to do business?
Neither. Vince is never going to retire. And I don't think he's ever going to change his mind on how he wants to do business. He's been doing this far too long, and he feels his way is the right way. And, for 40 years, it pretty much has been the right way. AEW now exists. Obviously, he doesn't like it, doing everything in his power to harm us or whatever, to take people away from watching us. But I don't think you'll ever see Vince change his philosophy. There might be a time where maybe he cuts back on the writers, but I don't think so. It's just the way they do things now. Writers' meetings and promos, and I don't know if he would know what to do if there was no writers, and it goes back to just all him and Pat Patterson sitting at his house by the pool, putting everything together. That's not going to happen either. So he's not going to retire. He'll die in power, so to speak. And his mom is 97, and she still plays tennis every day. So I wouldn't be planning on that anytime soon.
Wow.
So, I think there's two ways of doing things. There's the juggernaut of the WWE and the way to do things. And before, the difference is before, if you didn't like it, maybe you just turn off wrestling. Now, if you don't like it, you can come watch AEW. So there's a difference. And I think that's something that people have seen over the last 8 weeks is there's enough, almost 1 million people a week, sometimes more, that like having an alternative and like having a different way of doing things and enjoying a different style of wrestling. So, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having an option and having an alternative, and that's what we're doing. And we knew from the start the only way we had a chance of making it as a company is do something different, and that's kind of what we've been doing.
Part 2 of Keeping It 100's interview with AEW World Heavyweight Champion Chris Jericho will be on next week's show. But if you want to hear the full, complete, and unedited interview right now, you can hear it on the Patreon site at patreon.com/Konnan and Konnan.me.